campus.
Hey, good afternoon, Drew. Today is 29 October. It's great to see you, and I'm pretty excited about talking about 10x is easier than 2x, the latest book that we've been
Yeah.
reading. High quality content, really relevant to where we're at in our lives and our journeys, our artist journey. And I'm looking forward to having, starting today talking about it, but there's so much good material in here that I actually think we're going to probably have to talk about this, maybe twice or three times.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. Good afternoon to you from the Northwest. I understand it's still probably morning for you. But excited for this book. This book has really been challenging me. I'm not even fully through yet. This book is Texas Given Text. I already lifted it up for everybody to see by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And this is a really interesting book because he really expounds on a lot of key things that hold us back from greatness. I know that's a little bit of a cliche saying, but when you look at your life systematically, dealing with pathways thinking and the Pareto principle, and what is the 80% that's holding me back from maximizing the 20% of the unique greatness inside of you? Problem is, and I know that's with a lot of guys here in prison, is that they have a hard time finding anything within themselves. So this is a great way to jump into it. I find a lot of parallels. He mentions an author, James Clear, who we reviewed his book years ago called Atomic Habits. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Let me know that we're on the right path. We're studying the right material. We're talking about the right people. And I believe it's formulating something inside of us that's going to be our 20%.
Yeah, Drew, I completely agree. And I think one of the key things about, our journey as we struggle with, not struggle, but actually, learn about this content, then strive to apply it in our lives, and then integrate it in our lives. I think as we go on this journey and then we try to simplify it and communicate it, from our perspectives, the colonel and the convict, I think that's going to be valuable to other people in the world because we can highlight its relevance, given the varying different experiences that we've had in our lives. And one of the big, right out the gate, things that I noticed or took note of is the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, where 20% of, what we do, 20% of, you know, things that happen in nature really deliver, a predominance of, progress or growth or change. And that really applies to the activities that we execute on a daily basis. There's really 20% that makes all the difference. And your ability to objectively see that, recognize it, concentrate on it, and then get rid of that 80% of noise and distraction, and maybe make your 20 the new 80, is really a powerful perspective on life that is making me question what I do on a daily and weekly basis.
Yeah. The thing that this book showed me is the only person holding me back from achieving my biggest dreams is me. I want to read something to you really quick. And this is a quote out of the book. He says, "The entrepreneur lists conditions that need to be present for that impossible goal to become believably possible." And you know what I wrote? I wrote, see Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book years ago that changed my life. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And in this story, he had two fatherly influences in his life. One was his biological father, and one was the father of a good friend of his who was extremely rich but uneducated. And these two men, while both good men at heart, had two different levels of success in their life because they had two different approaches on how they saw problems in life. And the thing that I like that Ben Hardy says about this is the entrepreneur. Okay, I know that's a business term, But how about we just say, the husband, the father, the business owner, whatever that is in your life that you're trying to aspire at, get better at, and it could even be your struggle in your life to get healthier and fitter and achieve certain goals, okay? Begin to list conditions that need to be present for that impossible goal to become believably possible. Robert Kiyosaki, his very rich yet uneducated father, said, he never says, I can't afford this. His question to himself, and this is how he would frame the problem: how can I afford this? And when he said, how can I afford something, his mind went into a pathways thinking of problem solving and saying, okay, whatever it is that I want to achieve in my life, let's say I want to take my family on a 3-week-long European vacation and they cost X amount of dollars. I could say initially, I can't afford this, and it shuts down my brain from thinking of any problem-solving, strategies. But when I say, how can I afford this, I open a pathway in my mind to an endless list of possibilities around me that could exist for me to be able to have that thing that I'm aspiring for. So what I like about this book, and it starts off by saying, how you frame the problem is the problem. And I can draw up a bunch of different parallels even with us in prison. We're constantly looking for some sort of legislation bill to be passed or whatever, because our goal is we want to get out of prison. But we all know what would have to be present for us, for the conditions, for the laws, and how they sentence structure people for us to get out. So we're always kind of like looking to the horizon saying, what conditions would have to exist for some sort of leniency in the prison system. Now, here's the thing, and I'll end with this. I'll pass it back to you. The personal responsibility in it. We could say, these conditions, but how can I contribute to the condition I need in order for my biggest dreams to come to pass? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
Hey, that was really powerful, Drew. And I like the fact that you linked it back to a book that really meant a lot to you in the past. We need to add that onto the books we read and maybe talk about, here in this session. I think we've done a bunch of books over time, and we probably need to tease out the ones that have been the most impactful, and then, and maybe go and reattack those and really get those, the essence of them. This is going to be one of those books that's really powerful, and it's going to make us think differently, and we think that all of our listeners should tap into. One advantage that I've had, because I'm not where you're at and you're just reading the book, I've been listening to the Audible version. And the really cool thing about that is every time they finish a chapter, then Ben would ask Dan additional questions about what he thinks. And then Dan, because he's been that strategic coach for 50 years, and he's been exposed to hundreds and thousands of different entrepreneurs. And I agree with your analogy. Hey, you don't have to be an entrepreneur for this idea to be relevant. This is for any human that's interested in achieving excellence in their current moment, right? And so the vignettes that Dan provided, and what I need to do is, before we have this next session, is to dig in those and highlight those and share those via this video, because they're really powerful. And what you just highlighted about having that mindset, that problem solving mindset, and seeking pathways. I think another thing that even came from Stephen Covey, if you have a mindset of abundance and not competition, then you can achieve the world. And the really cool thing is that this book is the third book that Dan and Ben did together. So there was another book called The Gap in the Gain, and another book called Who Not How. And one of the most powerful things about, this 10x is easier than 2x references back to that Who Not How book, where it's you need to not try to figure out how you're going to do it yourself. You need to figure out who you're going to have do it for you, so then you can stay in the creative space and keep on pushing the limits of quality and better use of time and generating value, so that what you are doing, and now as your team, as you get more who's on your team, can take it to the next level. And so definitely more to come in respect to this book and the other books. I got Gap Not Gain, already in the mail to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you really mentioned that, the gap and the gain. I've been sharing that with people all week long, and we're not going to be able to cover that in this video. And I just want to remind people, we're just giving the tip of the iceberg with this book. 10x is easier than 2x. The gap and the gain is an important thing because I realize how often I exist in a gap. It's a constant thing in a prisoner's life that we look back with regret. That's kind of the point of prison, the forcing of contriteness and remorsefulness, and these are good things that we need in our life. Everybody needs in our life. But we live in a gap, and you're constantly looking back at what you did achieve, what you didn't do in your life. You always feel like something's missing. And that's a problem. That's a problem not just with prisoners, that's a problem with everybody. And we only have a few minutes left, but I just want everybody to know we're going to get into this, talking about this Pareto principle, the 80-20. We're going to talk about the gap and the gain. We're going to talk about the dream check. And we're going to talk about the 4 C's, which Dr. Ben Hardy says is commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. And so everybody's striving for something. I want to get out of prison, but actually my dream is so much bigger than getting in prison. It's the things that I want to accomplish, the impact I want to have in the world and in people's lives, and how I want to be remembered. I know that's kind of deep, but all of us want to do something, want to achieve something. It's not just for entrepreneurs. It's for regular people. So anybody listening, this book is for you just as much as it's for the colonel and the convict here. 1 minute left. You can go and let them know how to get a hold of us too.
All right, Drew. Yeah, thanks for that. We can be reached at www.colonellandconvict.com. And yeah, this is definitely a powerful book with multiple tools that are useful for taking your performance, your contributions to society to the next level. And it really helps you examine what you're doing on a daily basis and making sure you're not getting caught up in distractions, wasted time. It gives you, we like taking it back to the analogy of SHEARS, right? It helps you cut through the BS in life so that you can be your best self on the journey towards self-actualization and serving others through, meaningful contributions.
Yeah.
So, brother, it's good to see you again.
Love you, buddy. Next time, 10x is easier than 2x. We'll do round 2.
All right.
Love you, man.
Take care.